What are you doing with mobile, and what's that mobile strategy for the NBA?
Yeah, so I think, thank you for having me. It's a great
you.
discussion and exciting to talk about. I think the video that you just saw really is a good lead in to that. And the reason being, when you look at that video, we're an extremely international sport.
Yeah.
And we actually are the fastest growing sport across the globe right now,
Right.
basketball. And what we're finding is, when you have that kind of spread across the globe, our fan base is also very young, and so over half of our fan base is under 35. And so what we know is that global is far and away the number one way in which these people are going to engage with us across
Right.
the globe. And so when you think about what it is that we're doing, it's something as simple as we have the NBA app in which a lot of our consumers around the globe can actually engage and see content, whether highlights, statistics, other player information at right at their fingertips, all the way to new licensing agreements that we're doing with a lot of mobile carriers around the world. And so mobile carriers have come to us and said, look, starting with Verizon in the US, Globe in the Philippines are a couple of really good examples. And they said, look, we want to reach our consumers, and we
Right.
know that one of the ways that we can differentiate our broadband services is by putting that together with content. And there's nothing more timely than sports content to put at somebody's fingertips because, if you're not at home when that game's happening, you want to be able to see it. And so those are a couple of things that we're doing. I think we can talk a little bit later as well about virtual reality,
Right.
esports, some
Where
of the
it's
other
going.
things that we're doing to really engage as we go forward.
So the idea of having to take a brand like this globally and knowing that you can use mobile as a key component to that, what are some of the things that you're doing to reach that international audience? How are you customizing that experience for that consumer?
Yeah, one of the things that's really interesting, and I think a lot of people are surprised when we talk about it, is that approximately 25% of all of our players in the league are actually from somewhere outside of the US.
Right.
And so what happens is when you have a large number of players from Brazil or from the Balkan states or from Australia, all of a sudden you get a very natural, organic fan base and following in those countries or those regions. And so one of the things that we've started working on is developing localized content that's both in language in some cases when that's appropriate, as well as really tailoring it to the storyline of those players that are coming from that region, how they got to the NBA, the courts they played on, the friends that played in the neighborhood with them as they were growing up.
Oh, that's great.
And then the subculture of basketball, because the subculture, really there is a subculture in each of these areas
Sure.
that develops. And so what is that like? And bringing that local story around something that's becoming very global. When you think about some of the investments we're making in virtual reality right now, we just started at the beginning of the season, we announced that one time a week we would be streaming a live game in virtual reality. We just announced at All-Star last week that we would be going internationally with that as well. We started that domestically in the US, and we're now
Very
going
cool.
global. And really what was behind that was we know that 99% of our fan base across the world will never attend a live game in person. And so being
Sure.
able to bring that person courtside, though we know, it's certainly a long game. I mean, virtual reality is developing, but we know that it's going to be an important space for us to play in order to bring people courtside
It's a total
despite
fit.
not being there.
Yeah, total fit.